All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 61st episode of the IGC podcast, the podcast where we curse, talk about video games, and occasionally we get wasted while doing it. Sometimes on a Friday, sometimes on a Tuesday. So, I'm your host, Gray Jordan, and with us today we have yet again a skeleton crew in the absence of Papa J. I'll just let you guys introduce yourselves since you're here and everyone should know you anyway.
No, this is Core Contingency, sometimes known as Nadius.
And you play space games.
I do play space games and PC games of all types.
Very good.
This is AI Monster, and I am not a skeleton. I am a 1,000-year-old lolly dragon.
What? Have you been accused of being a skeleton?
Yes, you said this is a skeleton crew.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, you're right. It is. It is skeleton crew. You are a skeleton. I'm a skeleton. And if we get enough people on a boat, we can be pirates. Undead skeleton pirates.
It's a lifelong dream.
Yeah. To be caught on a curse, sailing the seas.
I can think of worse fates.
Same. So let's talk about. Let's first talk about what we've been playing the past couple of weeks, guys. AI, you usually play a colorful assortment of games. Why don't you start us off?
Well, I played E for One on the PS4. It's an enjoyable game, but it has a lot of technical issues. Among them, I started playing a game and loaded up the game, and it gave me a black screen for 5 minutes. Apparently, it takes that long to load a game, and it doesn't give you any feedback when you're loading it. So it looked like there was nothing happening.
Is it working? It's not working as intended then.
They just forgot to program in load transitions.
Oh, that's.
I don't know why a
great.
game like that would take that long to load anyway, but yeah, it's an adventure game where you solve puzzles.
On Vita?
No, it's on PS4.
Oh. Ether 1, you said?
Yeah.
Alright.
It was a free PlayStation game, PlayStation Plus, or whatever you want to call it. So I've been trying to knock them out. Some of the shorter ones I have in my library, and that was one of the shorter ones. I completed in a day.
Oh, it looks really good from the trailer.
Yeah, it's definitely enjoyable. It's got a good story to it.
I love that they put their own review scores in the trailer that weren't like 9 out of 10s. 8 out of 10, 82 out of 100 from PC Gamer.
Like 6 out of 10. You'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's great, actually. Most people only put that stuff in those trailers when they get scoring like perfect scores. I think it's good to have pride in your game and recognize that it's not, the perfect game, exactly.
I think the guys in marketing would disagree.
Well, their marketing team is quite liberal then.
Yeah, I think they're indie developers, so they don't really have a marketing team.
Hey, an 82 out of 100 is pretty good for any game. A legit 82 out of 100, of course, with a scale that goes from 0 to 100 and not from like 50 to 100.
Yeah, the scale goes from like 0 to 93 or 94.
So
what else have you been playing?
I played Knights of Azure, otherwise known as Yoro no Naikuni. Been playing that about probably halfway through it, maybe a little further. I'm really enjoying the game. Critics not so much. It does have a lot of issues, but the combat's really fun. It has a little bit of a repetitiveness and grinding to it. It has kind of shoddy translation, and it has a lot of otaku pandering in it for no particular reason whatsoever. Even though the story is quite, even though no, even the story is quite good, and they didn't have to do that otaku pandering nonsense.
Good in its own right, then.
Yeah, they should have just stopped. Don't do that. You don't have to do that for every game. Don't do it. It's fine when you have an over the top game like Sunran Kagura, but I don't like it. Like I didn't like it in Dragon's Crown with the sorcerers flocking breasts all over the place. But I think when a game tries to take itself more seriously, it shouldn't do that shit.
Yeah, I can hear you. I hear you. Some people like that big boob flopping thing going on in Dragon's Crown. I don't get it, but
I hear the boobs are popular.
I hear that they cause a lot of controversy on the internet. Funny because there's a race of like I don't know midget people in Final Fantasy 14 called the Lalafels. They're based on the Tartaru from 11. And when the game was launching for 2.0, one of the things that the community really clamored for quite a bit was a boob slider for that particular race. Because I mean, for the most part, the female characters were very flat chested, and they did add a boob slider, but I don't believe they actually added one for the Lalafell race. Someone can correct me on that later. Seifer would probably know better, but it seems to be a thing that people want to a degree, of course. Never really been one to play with the boob slider myself. What about you nowadays? What have you been playing the past couple weeks?
Oh man, I did pick up the. I guess it's kind of early access. It's the alpha for Planet Coaster, which is one of my game draft games.
Oh yeah.
It's very, very early alpha right now, but the game is showing a tremendous amount of progress. It's extremely playable, and people are doing some truly incredible things with it right now. Like the theme sets within the game itself aren't terribly diverse at the moment. Got kind of like a modern like kind of theme park style and a pirate theme set, and they'll be adding more and more stuff. But the coaster building is in there, even though it's kind of locked away, and you have to unlock it by a little like hack, but it's pretty simple to do. The engine is running absolutely beautifully at this point. I mean, they've got a tremendous piece of work on their hands. If people aren't familiar with Planet Coaster, it's a theme park kind of sandbox, building management game. It's being developed by Frontier, who are the same folks who did Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, are in no way involved with the fucking train wreck Roller Coaster Tycoon world that's happening right now, and is apparently getting like record refunds on Steam. But Frontier also did Elite Dangerous, so now they've got their sights set on making their own theme park simulator again, and that's Planet Coaster, and it's looking tremendous at this point.
So I know you're looking forward to this one. Is it everything you wanted it to be? Is it missing features? Anything you're looking forward to?
It's alpha, so it's not feature complete yet. But everything that's in there right now is done extremely well with a high level of polish, and like you wouldn't even realize you're playing an early alpha at this point.
Oh, that's pretty good. I mean, for you to be as glowing about a game as that is
an alpha.
Impressive. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it hasn't crashed once for me. I mean, like I said, there's a tremendous amount of. There's not a whole lot of the management side in there right now, but you can definitely build coasters. You can, build your scenery, and that's kind of one of the major selling points of this game. Is that instead of just plopping down like a food stall, you're actually going to go like Disneyland style and build like a whole themed area, and then you kind of integrate these little counters and like kiosks into your themed building. So you're creating a true theme park.
Cool. Wow. No more than a roller coaster, really.
Yeah. What else? Oh, Star Citizen, of course.
Yeah, what is going on over there?
They're making steady progress. 2.3 was just released. They put in, a lot of fixes, features. They're still working on getting Squadron 42 out there, and the persistent universe is still a long ways away. But it's playing well, performing a lot better.
Oh, there's a lot riding on it.
Mm-hmm.
So much, man. God. It's hard for people on the outside like myself to actually keep up with Star Citizen news. There's the format, the way they're releasing things like in those modules is just like really good idea, and I don't know. I wonder if it'll pay off for them in the end. For people to see bits of the game and kind of decide, I like this, I like that, and that's going to make me buy the game in the end.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult when you're on the outside, kind of looking at it. But for somebody who fires it up, once or twice a week, and keeps up to speed of the development, what's going on in the game. It's thoroughly enjoyable.
Cool. I just want it to release.
Someday.
Want to see what it's all about finally, when the whole package all together, how it all blends together, and if it's successful as they want it to be.
Well, you're going to have Squadron 42, and that's scheduled to release this year, and that's kind of like the single player, heavily mission campaign-based game. Much like they did, what was it, Starlancer, right before, Freelancer came out. It's kind of a similar thing.
The main story quest, basically.
Right, and it's integrated franchise. It's definitely in the Star Citizen universe, but it's not to be confused with like the full MMO persistent universe. It's going to be its own series of single player / co-op kind of campaign based missions that you run, like the Freelancer series or TIE Fighter, things like that.
That I might be more interested in looking at rather than the whole MMO. Well, at least the first.
I'm looking forward to both, but yeah, we'll definitely be seeing the Squadron 42 before the actual Star Citizen persistent universe.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, we have a lot of news to talk about. A whole shitload of news. So you guys want to jump into it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's talk about VR first, because that has been the big thing on everyone's mind. It has a big thing in everyone's hands now because there's some Oculus units finally out in the wild. They got sent out to the press. The first wave of backers, I believe, got their Oculuses. Is that correct?
Right. People who originally backed it in Kickstarter got theirs.
All right.
Or most of them, apparently.
Most of them, right. So there's been some problems with the launch of the Oculus. So let's get into that.
I think some's an understatement.
Yeah, there's a lot. Okay, so first of all, not everybody got their Oculus when promised, right?
No. There's a lot of people who had March, ship and delivery dates, and they're still waiting, and they've had no word of when they're going to get their units.
All right, and yeah, so that's all tying back together to Oculus's complete lack of communication on many things here. So people don't know when they're going to get their headset after the promised date. I think the biggest thing that I read about, other than the technical stuff, which we'll get into as well, is that people have discovered that the Oculus is constantly communicating with the Facebook servers. Now, this shouldn't be a fucking surprise, but it's a disappointment nonetheless. So let's get into this one a little bit because this has some ramifications to it. So when you guys heard about this, what did you think, and where are we going to go with all this?
Well, I mean, I think when we were talking about the Oculus originally, when they were acquired by Facebook, we all hated that idea. I'm pretty sure,
indeed,
universally. So, I mean, this is the ramifications of this. We're seeing a lot of problems that come with being acquired by Facebook. Like, Facebook loves data mining, and that's what they're doing here. And they intend to sell advertisements to you via the Oculus. I mean, they're going to use the data to target ads to you. They said so in their terms of service.
So, I mean, some of it's standard fare, I think, where the unit itself knows what games you play. It knows sort of where you're at in menus, what you're doing, the things you're looking at, the things that you're not looking at, obviously, what you're saying through the sensitive microphone that it has on it, right? And that's all part of the data mining stuff.
Yeah, and there's probably some other stuff they could do with VR now. Like, they could figure out exactly like what your body shape is, so they could target you advertisements based on that.
Like clothing company advertisements?
No, I was thinking, well, that possibility that if you're fat, they might target weight loss.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
So, I mean, there's I don't think they data mined. I mean, I don't think people have packet sniffed exactly what's being sent to the Facebook servers yet. But there's a lot of possible things that could be sent there. So,
I mean, they know some stuff. They know some stuff. They know what it's looking at in terms of your friends list. It knows that it has a version checker. Some of the standard kind of stuff that you would expect. But it just, it's always the idea of, well, where would they go further with this? Like, like what you're saying, targeting heavy people for weight loss or clothing or whatever. Like, that sounds really reasonable in terms of going the extra mile to identify people for advertising. And in a sense, that's kind of what Facebook is best at, right? I mean, they data mine the shit out of you. They know who's your friend when you don't even have any pictures with them or anything. Somehow they just know because they mine your phone and your browser and friend's browser.
Maybe yours.
Not mine. No, not mine either, because I don't have Facebook. They certainly do my wife's. She has Facebook, and yeah somehow she's been matched up with people that I work with that she doesn't even know.
So, pretty much, from the incident, we learned that Oculus was going to have its own storefront, and they were kind of separating their SDK away from the Valve environment and a general open environment as a whole. It became quite apparent that they were trying to sell the Oculus not as just a piece of hardware, but they're trying to develop a platform around this thing. They want their own little ecosystem, and they don't want anybody else getting a piece of their Oculus pie, basically. Yeah. And this is just an extension of that. And they've got their own environment here. They're gonna mine the hell out of it for data about you, what you're doing, what interest, and how best to sell you stuff through this platform that they're developing. That's par for the course. Steam does the same thing, really. Anytime you're using Steam, Steam knows what the fuck you're doing. It knows what store pages you go to. It knows what you're looking at in Steam. I mean, it's nothing really different there, other than it doesn't integrate heavily with other social media aspects unless you're stupid and you link Steam to Facebook or something.
I do think there's some pretty key differences here. Facebook likes to sell your information to third parties, and Steam tends to just keep the information to themselves.
Tell you that, and this Reddit link you guys put on the document here to the Oculus subreddit has some pieces of the privacy policy for the Oculus in there. It's basically you agree to let Facebook use any and all information that it can glean from your machine. This is a post by a fellow named Woofington. Glean from your machine, Rift microphone to better target ads and sell to third parties. So they've said it, and you've agreed to it by having this headset. And to me, this is weird. Only in the sense that when you pre-ordered something like this, you didn't know that it came with all this stuff. Yeah, maybe logic. You could have reached this conclusion that it's going to be this, that, and the other thing. Then in the middle of all that, it got bought by Facebook, and you got to think that end user license agreement changed heavily. Pre-ordered something like this, you didn't know that it came with all this stuff. Yeah, maybe logic. You could have reached this conclusion that it's going to be this, that, and the other thing. Then in the middle of all that, it got bought by Facebook, and you got to think that end user license agreement changed heavily when Facebook acquired them, and now you had your pre-order, you wanted this thing. Now you're kind of stuck with agreeing to this policy that you probably didn't think was going to be a thing when you first thought, I'm going to get an Oculus Rift.
Yeah, and I mean, it's bad enough that you get hit by advertisements when you're playing a game. You're going to start getting hit by advertisements that aren't even related to gaming while you're playing a game. That's going to be kind of annoying.
Well, I think it's sort of what Naughty's just talked about, is that it's a platform, right? So even though at first it's being sold for games and entertainment, the Oculus is looking at other applications too, and I think that all the VR platforms should be looking at various applications. Looking at a beach house that you might want to buy on some island, being able to take a virtual tour, that's been talked about. Things like that. Like that has far-reaching stuff beyond just gaming. That's business and economics and things like that. Being present at a board meeting, that you can't be at. It's cool stuff like that.
Don't forget the VR porn.
Who could forget? Yes, Pornhub did recently launch an entire VR porn section. So if you're into that sort of thing, you can get some more bang for your buck out of the Oculus, no pun intended.
And if you're not, you should be.
You should be. We can talk about that after the podcast. So what?
No, you don't want to break down the details on that, all right?
No, not in particular. All right, so let's talk about the Oculus Store and how shitty it is. Who wants to go through this?
Just want to fire them off here. So no refunds, no friend functionalities. It only shows you what games that your friends are playing. You can't actually right-click to join on them like you can in Steam. You can't invite them to join your game. No chat or any other useful social features. No cloud saves. No community features. It has to install on Root C apparently.
That one sucks.
So yeah, if you've got your C drive is your OS drive, and you keep that relatively small partition so you can transfer, make it easily manageable, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah. So this really launched really bare bones. I mean, we're talking about some features that
it's like they rushed it out the door.
Yeah, you'd think maybe they did. Yeah, it kind of seems like that. Just a lot of features that you would think just come with things nowadays. I mean, the fact that you can't install anything outside the C drive is wow. I mean, it's a huge oversight for them. And I know he shed a tear when there was no achievements for any of the games that are on the platform currently.
Yeah.
No Chibos for you.
Drowned in your bathtub, I'm sure. So,
but none of that matters because most people can't even get a Rift. So
it's true. Yep. if you're one of the lucky couple thousand people to have one, well, you're dealing with this bullshit.
I was looking in Shack News yesterday, and I guess a lot of people were talking about it. There's a huge amount of upset people that are canceling their pre-orders and are going out and buying Vives now because the shipping looks like the Vive's going to get there before the Rift would anyway. But I guess Oculus is blaming a lot of this on their shipping department. They're saying they're having massive issues over on that end, and they're trying to remedy it. And hopefully next week these things will start going out regularly, but we'll see.
One can hope. I mean, we anticipated even on here that was going to be an issue. We compared, how Oculus was acquired by Facebook. They didn't necessarily have all that stuff in place, whereas HTC and Vive seem to have a better system going with production and being able to get out more units quicker. So when they launch in a month or two, I guess we'll see how that compares to this particular launch.
Oh, they're launched. Those Vives are already shipping.
Oh, they are people's hands. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
mine, I ordered like 3 hours after pre-orders went up because I was out in the field, so I'm probably not getting mine for another few weeks here.
Oh, you're getting one. That's what's important.
Indeed.
There was one more big deal with the Oculus, and that was that there's actually two more, but the one more related to consumers would be that the field of view for the Vive is reportedly 26% larger in the Rifts. The field of view for the Rifts is actually closer to like 90 degrees.
Oh.
Which is not the amount they originally said, which is more like around 100 degrees. Field of view, it's actually significantly
that's
smaller
tiny, man.
Than there's an image up that showed the field of view difference, and it is significant between the Vive and the Rift. It wasn't supposed to be that significant, so kind of people are kind of upset about that.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
would
not
be
a
too.
deal breaker, but it's something to consider.
I mean, field of view is a kind of a big deal when it comes to motion sickness too. So.
Right, motion sickness, just the fact that, you don't want to feel like you have no peripheral vision whatsoever. Like, people are used to having a big field of view. When FPS games come out, or third person over the shoulders, people are always talking about FOV and being able to change the FOV and all that stuff. If it's not available in the game, there's a mod for it or a slider, That is a big thing I would feel. If I had this thing and I felt like I was in a box, I don't know how long I'd want to play with it.
Yeah, it's definitely important for the technical term they call it presence. Actually feeling like you're in that virtual world, because it filling up your peripheral vision is key to that. Because when you move your head, and you'll notice it. Just try it. When you move your head, you always look where your head's moving first. Your eyes move to that area where you're going to look, and then your head moves. And it happens very, very quick. But if there's no peripheral vision there, it can be a little disconcerting at times. And yeah, I can see how people could get motion sick from that.
Yeah, and the other thing that I know that you were going to mention is about the fact that the Oculus doesn't have any touch controllers. It has the gamepad that comes with it, the Xbox pad. And people are saying that that's just really not feeling natural or working out for them whatsoever.
I mean, that depends on the game.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. But games that are built for the VR platform should have some better interactive, input mechanism than a gamepad that, sure, everyone's used to, but you're holding it in your hand. Your hands are very limited. Like, you're not getting again, maybe that's affecting the presence that people are, not getting out of here.
Yeah, the touch controllers are coming, of course. And they're supposedly better in the wrist touch controls from people who have played with both. So, I mean, they're coming, but that's another, $100, $150 added to the system, probably.
Right.
Plus an additional camera.
So, in terms of strategy, right? So, we knew that they were both going to, in terms of the complete package, the headset, whatever needs to be powering it, the touch controllers, they were both going to be about the same price anyway, right? I mean, the Rift, to get the complete package, is going to cost you $200, is it not?
That's what I was banking on.
Okay. So, did Oculus do right by the consumer putting out essentially rushing out a product to be ahead of the Vive at a lower price point, but also giving you a smaller FOV, less of an experience because they packed in an Xbox controller of all things, and then having all the impact of early release, like the store woes and all that shit we just talked about.
Yeah, and it has worse room scale and everything else. So.
They were smart in putting the Xbox controller in there, because if one thing needed to be certain is that the developers who are developing games for the Oculus need to know that every player that plays a game has a type of controller like that they can develop for.
I understand that, absolutely. You need to standardize some kind of input method if you're not going to pack the touch controllers in on day one.
Now, I would love to have seen them give out like a HOTAS Warthog and with each one, but that's just my dream.
Never gonna happen.
Only $400, come on.
Never gonna happen. So Vive's gonna have a better launch. That's still our feeling here.
Everybody who's comparing the two right now are saying Vive's just a better package. And no ifs, ands, or buts. It's got the room tracking, it's got the controllers. The headsets are both very comfortable. So the Vive, you're not losing anything in comfort or wearability with the Vive. I just can't fathom why anybody at this point who has an Oculus pre-order that's like looking for a mid-May to early June delivery isn't just canceling and ordering a Vive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a real thing that might happen. Especially after hearing all this stuff. I mean, obviously there's going to be fixes for the store problems, There's going to be the touch controllers coming down the line. It's a matter of, do you want to wait it out for this product that some people now have and are, some people are probably happy with it. They got it. They're like, cool, VR, this is my new first time with it. They're not critics. They don't have a lot bad to say about it. A lot of times people say good things because they're trying to justify their purchase. People do that with games. They do that with technology. They do all kinds of shit. But when the Vive finally becomes, out there and saturated out there, like the comparisons they're going to be all over the place, and it's going to be hard to miss. I think there's going to be some regrets.
Could be. I don't think anybody's going to have any problem turning around their Oculus on eBay for about what they paid, though. So.
Oh, at this point, probably not, especially because they're not out there right now. All right, so let's talk about PlayStation VR, because PlayStation VR is seriously hyped up and looks pretty good for the price point and what they're offering. And pre-orders went up and they sold out. And
yeah, imagine that.
That's great. I mean, that's what happened with Oculus. That's what happened with Vive, right? So the demand for VR is, even on the console, seems to be still going strong. And you said they did a second round of pre-orders. I actually didn't catch that.
I think the first one was like the full package with the controllers and the camera, right?
No, they did 3 rounds technically. Yeah.
Okay.
First one was the first one was the full bundle. Then they did the
that's the camera and the Move controllers.
Mm-hmm. They did the full bundle again. That's when I actually canceled my Walmart pre-order, because I couldn't get the first pre-order because it was during my work hours. I canceled my Walmart pre-order and got on Amazon that time because it was during after my work hours, fortunately. So, yeah, I pre-ordered PlayStation VR.
I mean, I would have expected you to anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously it sold out quickly, and there's a huge install base already for the PlayStation VR. Time's gonna tell on this one, though. I mean, we've seen what games they have, in development for it, and they're not all looking like they're hugely, high fidelity graphics or anything. But that could all change with the PS4K coming out.
Absolutely could change, yeah, and that'll definitely give them the opportunity to use that studio that they have for VR stuff to go farther and make higher quality games on, that'll really max out that headset. And one of the things that I also saw that I'm glad you put on here, Nautilus, Nikkei, which is a site that typically covers a lot of the Japanese news, Nintendo, Sony, that kind of stuff. They caught somebody over at PlayStation saying that they're interested in possibly bringing that VR headset over to the PC. So that's going to give PC gamers potentially a third option that's cheaper in the market to actually, decide between when it comes down to it. And, we're not getting PlayStation VR for another few months. So, I would say wait out on that news if, you're on the fence, because the headset, while it's not as technologically fantastic as the other two, seems like it's going to hold its own. And I have a feeling like Sony's going to find a way to port that those studios, those games from that studio they have over to the PC if they do that.
It's possible. I mean, they've got some work to do on the control side of things. Like, I don't think there are any actual like Sony produced native drivers to run like PlayStation controllers with a PC.
No,
they're all,
there are not.
They're all hacked in basically.
Yes.
So that could be interesting because they'd have to integrate like the Move controllers and the camera over to the PC side. I mean, it's all doable, but are they going to put in the effort?
We'll see. Yeah, it's definitely doable. Definitely doable. So that's pretty good news. So let's see. We have an article here about the PS4.5 4K specs. So I guess this is your thing, Naughty. Tell me what this all means.
Ask AI on this one.
So
he's far more interested than I am in it.
They stated that now this is a rumor, but it was confirmed by the moderator, NeoGaf or something like that. That this person's a legit source, so it's probably going to be true. They stated, let's see, the GPU is twice as powerful as a standard PS4 and much faster. They're probably gonna the price is going to be around $499 or $399 if they don't add much of an upgrade to the CPU, but I'm sure they will because CPU is kind of important for VR. So they'll have a 4K Blu-ray player, and it will upscale games that are not natively 4K.
Naturally. That's what people want. They want upscaling. Well, I think it's good. Another generation within this generation of consoles seemed like something that was inevitable after the pretty bad technological, capabilities of these particular consoles. It was sort of whispered since the beginning that, these video cards and these things are bad and, they need better processors, but we needed to ship them at a certain cost. And here we are. And now PlayStation's finally saying, this is going to be a thing that we're going to do. And it's going to be a better machine. And the price point is a little scary. Think about buying another PlayStation within just 3 years of the one you just bought, probably at full price. But hey, it's Sony. And if they've got the money to do it, they'll do it. They'll market it. And they'll probably make some cash.
And I think the most important thing here is you won't see upgrades in performance for games that were previously launched on PS4. Florida, specifically PS4, it's only for certain games. So it kind of devalues it a little bit because you're not going to see the performance boost. You'll see the upscaling with the 4K, I'm sure. But,
because they're still going to make those VR games with the PlayStation VR and the PlayStation 4 in mind. So even the new system's not going to.
I actually don't. I think they'll probably make most of the PlayStation VR games going forward for the PlayStation 4K.
And then downscale them.
Yeah, and I think you're pretty much going to need the PlayStation 4K for VR. But if you're not planning on just doing VR, you're not planning on doing VR at all with PlayStation, I would probably say just hold off until next generation.
Alrighty then.
Because this is pretty much in response to VR. The PlayStation VR headset is plenty powerful. It's equivalent to the Oculus and the Vive in terms of power. I mean, it has lower latency and everything else, even though that's a slightly less display power. But it's the PlayStation 4 just can't handle that. It can't create games with such high frame rates that are required for PlayStation and look good at the same time. So that's why they're doing this.
It seems like an okay move for Sony. I mean, time will tell if people will actually want to adopt it or not. But speaking of VR and the power that is required to make it happen, Naughty, why don't you tell us what Valve is doing?
Valve's doing some really cool stuff right now. So
yes.
We have, this is all going back to the VR stuff. VR on the PC side, we know takes a reasonably high-end computer. You need a decent processor. You need a current generation, 970 GTX graphics card or better or so we thought. So what Valve has actually done is use some very clever rendering techniques in the source engine to basically dial back the performance bar. So they were actually able to get their VR like Portal demo running at a very acceptable VR frame rate on hardware as old as like a 680 GTX. I think is what you've got. Yeah. So there's a lot of clever rendering tricks that they're using here. A lot of them are basically taking into consideration how humans view the world, basically. And if you're looking at an image or looking at anything in general, there's about like a 35 to 40% area in the center of your eye where most detail is focused. And then as you progress outside of that area, your eye sees less and less detail. So they learned that they can actually lower the detail outside of that focal area in VR and actually, lower down the texture resolution, lower down details, and increase performance dramatically.
I see. So if shit I'm not looking at doesn't need to be super crisp.
Yeah, it's stuff that you can see, but you're not focusing on it.
Right. And even in like photography, which I have some friends that are familiar with, my wife included, they talk about things like focus and deep focus, like, letting things be fuzzy and focusing on what is important to you in the foreground or background or whatever. And that those makes, those particular photos like high quality in what you're focusing on and lesser quality in the background, but are also sort of smaller in size because they're not capturing, full detail across every single pixel. Makes perfect sense to me, in my opinion.
Yep. And then they did the most awesome thing in the world. Instead of just keeping this to themselves and integrating it into the next source engine or current source engine, they're like, you know what? Let's create a module and give this to the Unity guys. So they're giving this out to the Unity. Unity engine is going to be able to do this. This is a huge bonus for the VR world. So clearly Valve's got our back here. Whereas Oculus is trying to keep everything in their own little park, Valve is seriously pushing this VR effort forward.
They're using their own game as a testing ground, so we'll have to see how this adopts to games outside of the Unity engine, if other people want to bring this forward or not. It's easier to program a game one way, than have this, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We shall see.
But yeah, if this works and it picks up, it might mean a lot more people can play VR than they thought.
All right, so last 2 weeks ago on the last podcast, we talked quite a bit about the Windows Store. And how we might have to start talking about differentiating games between PC on Steam or Origin and games that are on the Windows Store because of this universal Windows platform. And a lot of the reason we talked about that is because Microsoft has a lot of limitations that are currently implemented into their universal Windows platforms for the games that are on there, because they're essentially just apps, and so they didn't have things like being able to enable or disable VSync rather, change resolution, run things in Windows mode, etc. And Phil Spencer had said very little about it other than, we're going to look into it. Well, he has come back with a bit more now. He said he's heard the feedback from the PC gaming community loud and clear, and we are working to ensure Windows 10 has a great gaming experience. And what that means is now, through a recent update to the Xbox PC app, which is going to come in May, you'll be able to, you'll have the ability to disable the VSync for games that you can play on Windows 10. And there's also going to be support added for G-Sync and FreeSync. So it's not the full sort of gamut of things people were complaining about, but I think it is probably the most important thing out of the gate for them to make sure they have. What do you think, Naughties? Is that accurate?
I fucking say cash on deliveries.
Well, it's going to be free.
Promises from the head of Microsoft's Xbox department about PC gaming does not instill me with a tremendous amount of confidence.
Okay, all right. You're always the skeptic on this panel, so I'll it's okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'll believe this when I see this. Basically, like put the changes in, and then we'll see.
I'll tell you what.
Like the head of Xbox. For Microsoft coming out and being like, oh yeah, we screwed up you PC gamers real bad. We're sorry. We're going to fix it. And I'm like, okay.
I can't possibly disagree with you. I will say that it's a great thing that's going to be there because it's going to give those players on Xbox One who want the game on Windows 10 to play it cross-platform. Awesome. You're going to be able to utilize the full capability of your, video card and monitor if you have G-Sync or FreeSync available. But I don't think it's going to be the difference between buying a game on Steam versus buying a game in the Windows Store if it's available on both platforms. I don't think that I don't think they could do anything to change our mind about that one.
No, that would be an extremely difficult sell.
All right. So last but not least in the tech news area here, there were, I believe it was on the last podcast, there was already some supposedly leaked NX controller pictures.
Nintendo NX
controller pictures, and the internet was quite abuzz about what that controller would be capable of and all this other business. And recently we have found out some interesting news. AI, why don't you tell us about it? Since Pop is not here to be Nintendo fanboy, you get to fill in for him.
So maybe I was I don't remember if we announced on the podcast again, but there was a controller leak. It looked very fake, but there was the plug that was plugged into it that was apparently something you see a lot on the Nintendo dev kits. So a lot of people believed it was real. There was a whole team real, team fake meme thing coming up. And then shortly after, probably a week or so after, we got another controller leaked that was pretty similar to the controller we saw, but it looked a bit more realistic.
Yeah.
But it didn't have that plug.
No.
So a lot of people were speculating if this is true or not, if this is fake. And about a week after that, we find out, oh, it's all fake. It was made up. The first one was Photoshop. There's two different people who made these fake NX controllers, and the second one was actually 3D printed.
People are going crazy over this too. Like there were entire threads on NeoGAF about people comparing the trees outside the office where this picture was taken that were being reflected on the desk and the controller itself, and trying to determine which developer's office this was.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Sometime people were saying, "Oh, this is I think it was Ubisoft or something," and it was crazy.
It was absolutely crazy. It shows how much power Nintendo has in the media because we've known from the past couple generations of games that Nintendo has put out, consoles rather, that the design of their controller is going to dictate something about people's minds, something about the quality or type of game that they're going to be selling you. And so seeing the controller was probably the perfect thing to try to spoof, to get people to talk about the NX, It's almost like Nintendo should have done this just to fuck with people, just to get them talking about the NX, to get it in people's minds, what's it going to be about, to get the buzz going. It's crazy.
Seriously, Nintendo could not have asked for any better free advertising.
Seriously. I mean, it was talked about for days.
I don't know, man. People were raging about this. I was upset. I was ready to just disavow Nintendo completely if this is true. Because,
of course.
I mean, we're talking about a controller that was designed purely as a mobile device, touchscreen, no buttons on the controller. It would not have worked at all for.
Yeah, but it's like Graves said, it got everybody thinking. Or we sat there and we looked at this controller and we're like, okay, there's no buttons on it, so it's all going to be touchscreen based. And we're like, is that such a bad thing? Well, yes. Some will say yes, some will say no. 10 years ago, people thought touchscreens on cell phones was a terrible idea, but lo and behold, every fucking phone has a touchscreen now, and that's fine.
It's terrible for playing games on.
But it started to get people thinking, what kind of games are they going to have us play on this?
Because you heard Nintendo talk the last year very strongly about wanting to bring third-party stuff back on board, wanting to go back to sort of standard computerized base chip stuff where it wasn't all proprietary. They were talking in the realm that people understood. Processing power, resolutions, things like that. And think about the controversy we talked about several months ago when Nintendo was like, well, people were looking at the specs and they're like, well, this thing is only going to run games at 900p, and how big of a deal that was. So Nintendo's under a lot of scrutiny for the hardware that they put out because they want people who are the fanboys and otherwise want Nintendo to be strong. They, in some way, maybe it's a childhood dream that Nintendo will be back to where it was, that they will go back to the mainstream, that they will be important again. that they will put out more than just first party titles for people. And so when you see this thing, it's gonna cause people to be enraged, and it's gonna cause people to speculate on a positive note about what the future of Nintendo is, because that's the thing that's uncertain right now. Everyone wants to talk about that. It's news. I think for Nintendo, any press is good press at this point, and this was press. Period. Argue with me, God damn it!
I wholly agree with you on this one.
All right. Let's talk about other controversy. Let's move into games. So, everyone was waiting for Dark Souls 3. This has been the game that everyone, for some reason, maybe I'm not the best guy to talk about this game, because I dislike the Dark Souls series. Everybody's been waiting for this game because they know that there's a huge following for Dark Souls. People love that kind of game. They love that hidden lore stuff. They love the gameplay difficulty, all that stuff. So, May, why don't you take over? Because I feel like maybe you can explain this better.
So, for whatever fucked up reason, Namco Namco, let's call him Namco.
Bandai Namco.
Bandai Namco, I'll just call him Namco from now on because that's easier to say, decided that they would go ahead and stagger the release of Dark Souls 3, a game that people really like being the first to publish footage of and everything. And this is completely this pissed off the Dark Souls community a lot, as it probably should. There's no reason to ever do this ever. But yeah, the Japanese get it earlier, even though the game is always pretty much launched the same, I believe, on the same release date as in the US, worldwide simultaneous release. But yeah, the Japanese got it earlier, so people are actually going ahead and downloading the game onto the Japanese store and playing it in English because it has an English option in Japan, in Japanese, and yeah, it's people are getting the game earlier than other people who ordered the physical copies, and apparently there was a leak with the Xbox where Xbox you could kind of cheat and download the game even earlier than that.
Right.
So it's a whole mess. People are playing the game at different periods of time. Some people are going to wait for the actual North American release date on the 12th. Reviewers are even starting to review it early. I don't think it has any scores yet, but there's some pre-reviews on there, early reviews that they'll update later on.
I mean, I'm not sure what the embargoes are on it, but a few of the other news outlets that I follow have had very positive things to say. That it's very reminiscent of the first Dark Souls. That it's it's clever. It's got mystery. It's got the difficulty. That everything about it is a Dark Souls game.
You only get to really experience the combat at one point in the game. And that's the end. You get to fight the Iron Giant when Noxus gets grown up. You play as young Noxus for the rest of the game.
I heard in terms of, the thing that people talked about the most was the visuals, that the visuals were quite stunning, that people loved the environments, the graphics, things like that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. Of course, as a Final Fantasy game, the visuals are amazing. In terms of tech, though, it's certainly not as high end as the other Final Fantasy games. And from the trailers, I mean, those look really great, the trailers. So I don't know what they were doing with this demo, if it's running on a debug mode or something.
Yeah, all right.
So along with all this crap,
indeed, that's not
this
enough.
demo, the game announced was the game's going to come out September 30th on Xbox One and PS4.
I do recommend looking at the 4-minute long trailer. It's like 4 minutes and 40 seconds or something. Not the new one that they released officially, the Reclaiming the Phone trailer, but the one that they had in the press conference. It was a really long trailer, but it was probably one of the most amazing trailers I've seen.
Okay, we'll watch a longer one.
Yep.
I only saw the short one. Okay, so what else did they release alongside it? So the release date, the demo,
That's not enough marketing. There is also
Nope.
a 5-part anime series called Brotherhood Final Fantasy 15. The first episode, and maybe the first and second episodes are available on YouTube now. What else? There is a full-blown CG movie called Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15. They're getting really creative with the names here, which I guess is all going to be CG, using a lot of actors from Game of Thrones. So that's coming. In addition to a Final Fantasy 15 themed pinball game for Android and iOS named Justice Monster 5.
Which you can also play in the Final Fantasy game.
Of course. And if that's not enough, they are considering a PC release. Obviously, a PC release is not happening on September 30th, but I don't think there's been a single Final Fantasy game release that has not made it to PC, so this is inevitable. So if you want it on the PC, just hang in there.
This to me is odd because Square Enix has spent a lot of resources the past, I'd say, 18 months or so, porting all of their old Final Fantasy games onto PC, and now they're all there. Every Final Fantasy game is on Steam.
Yep, and as a publisher, Square is very PC friendly. A lot of the games that they publish come out on PC simultaneously with their console partners. But as AI Monster pointed out in chat the other day, the actual Square developed games have never seen a simultaneous console and PC release. So this shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. But yeah, as a publisher, they do it all the time. As their own in-house development, they don't like to do that.
Which is odd because maybe they were only talking about games that they published that are third party. When they talked about wanting to make sure that the PC the PC platform is important to us. They said something like that about a year ago, and we're going to be making sure that games come here. And then they've delivered on that promise. They've put every Final Fantasy game on PC. All their third party stuff has been on PC. But then not to have Final Fantasy 15 simultaneous release is kind of a downer because I was looking forward to the game, but I want to play it on PC.
I don't think it's odd at all, and here's why. They want to make the consoles look as good as possible. So they're going to focus all their efforts on making it look as good as possible. If they have to worry about a PC release too, and worry about all the different hardware associated with that, and making that look good on every different types of hardware, then that's going to probably hurt their development a bit. Because they're the company that always pushes tech. So I was kind of surprised about the Platinum demo. So I think that's probably main reason.
Yeah, it's pretty much why like Rockstar, PC releases always lag behind their console releases. And honestly, we're always better off for it. And I think that'll be the case here too. I think we'll be better off for them taking an additional year to do a proper PC release.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. As long as it's not a mess like Final Fantasy 13 was a mess on PC. And that was sort of their first foray into it again, outside the MMOs. And the game was very bad on PC. It was a terrible port. So they did better with X2. They did better with X3. And so they're learning. And so maybe to them it's still scary to do that. So maybe it's not odd. It's upsetting, though. I'm a little upset. And last but not least, we should probably talk about the Collector's Edition for Final Fantasy 15.
Yes. I love collector's editions because I have always been a strong supporter of separating stupid people from their money.
And how much are stupid people going to pay for this?
Apparently, they paid $270, and they sold out all of these in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't understand this one.
Sorry, I was speechless.
It doesn't even. Oh, this is typical Final Fantasy fans. I mean, they paid like $40 for a soundtrack or something ridiculous like that.
They do.
But I mean, 270. This collector's edition does not look like it's worth $270.
Well, what's in it?
The main thing I noticed is the Noctis figurine from Play Arts Kai.
What the hell is wrong with people? That's half the cost of a freaking Oculus Rift.
Assuming that you get the game, you get an art book, you get a soundtrack, you get a figurine, and you get some physical swag, right? I have not looked at it, by the way. I have no idea what's in the package.
There's not much physical swag. You do get the physical CD for the anime and the Kingsglaive.
And the shit you can see for free on YouTube?
These for free. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's I don't know. I don't know.
Again, collector's editions, separating stupid people from their money.
Yeah.
I buy collector's editions every once in a while, but I don't like paying more than $20-$30 extra for collector's edition. I like getting a lot of things like art books and that sort of thing. There wasn't really that much in this collector's edition that really warranted the price tag, but people apparently were just super excited for this and paid $270. I mean, they could have probably put just an extra CD on there that says "fuck you" when you load it up, and people would pay that amount.
Well, Square Enix has fanboys, and they are loyal, and apparently they have their money. You know, more money than sense. All right, so we've got
as bad as Nintendo fanboys.
You got that right. All right, so in the interest of time, let's do another 2 of these. So what do you guys vote? Do you want to talk about Star Ocean? Got it. We probably have to talk about Star Ocean, right?
Do we?
We don't need to. All right, you want to talk about Pokemon?
Probably should. I hear it's kind
mobile.
of popular.
Okay, well, what about it? Okay, so Pokemon Go. We now know stuff about Pokemon Go.
Right.
What
It's fairly straightforward. It's going to print money for the Pokemon company. Basically, it's a mobile app. It allows you to capture, Pokemon in real life settings. Like if you're near a lake or an ocean, you'll get water-based Pokemon apparently, and you have to get Pokeballs by going to museums and other landmark type places. I don't know. And somewhere in there's going to be microtransactions, I'm sure, and they're going to make a lot of fucking money on this.
So it's like digital mobile geocaching for Pokemons?
Yeah, basically.
That is fucking genius.
And then you'll be able to join up with other players and have battles, and it's going to be amazingly profitable for them.
It's going to make them $1 bajillion.
There is not going to be a kid under the age of 14 that has like an Android or iOS phone. It does not have this.
Oh man, I can only imagine. Actually, I mean that sounds pretty cool. Actually, I have a feeling my wife's going to do this. All right. So last but not least, let's talk about this guy who snuck a game onto the Valve store without anyone knowing.
This was funny. So yeah,
this is really funny.
So if you were on Steam like last weekend, basically, I just popped into the Steam store, and sure enough, on the front page of Steam was a new release game called Watch Paint Dry, the game, and I'm like, boy, they fucking Greenlight would just let anything on here.
They will publish anything.
So turns out this very clever 16-year-old kid who fancies himself kind of a security analyst has been, going after Valve's Steam framework for a long time. He got himself like a developer account through another hack, and then used a bunch of other, URL injection methods basically to get this game that he made called Watch Paint Dry authorized and moved like onto the front page of the Steam store.
Yeah. So
And he apparently did this because Valve wasn't taking him seriously. He'd been, kind of like freely giving him all this information about all the security vulnerabilities in Valve's back end, and they just ignored him.
And then he showed him what for.
He gave him what for and made some money and got himself a positive review rating.
To be fair, this game is probably better than most of the games that pass through Steam Greenlight.
I mean, from what I understand, the game was basically like this picture on Ars Technica shows you, where you essentially just watch paint dry.
That's exactly what it was.
That is all you do.
It has since been pulled from the Steam store.
What people will program for a laugh. Really, though.
Yeah, and Ars Technica, kind of interviewed this kid, and I mean, he's a kid, but he's pretty bright, and he's got a good future if he keeps this up. And he basically said there's a lot of other vulnerabilities in Steam, and he's not going to basically tell them anymore because they aren't incentivizing it for him.
Yeah, why bother?
They have a rewards program for reporting bugs, so why bother?
Why bother? If they're not going to pay attention to you, then fuck it. All right, so one of the holidays we had that just passed was April Fool's. So AI, was it you who constructed this wonderful list of video game April Fool's jokes?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. So out of this list of stuff, is there any that you guys want to talk about? Ones that you found particularly funny?
I like the Warhammer Death Wish difficulty. They finally made a difficulty design for me.
This is for
Yeah,
Vermintide, right?
Yeah, Warhammer Vermintide. They have a trailer for the Deathwish difficulty, which puts like hundreds of special units in the game up against you. Obviously, there's no way you could possibly win. It's kind of funny, tongue in cheek.
Yeah. I loved the Witcher 3 Roach DLC. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Just with these April Fool's jokes, the seriousness at which they deliver their message, seriousness, and showing them doing motion capture for Roach, who's the horse, who's Geralt's horse, doing funny poses, and then actually showing some in-engine stuff to make you kind of think this is actually a thing.
Yes, it was a guy in a horse outfit.
He's wearing the horse head and everything. It's pretty funny.
I mean, they delivered it with complete seriousness, as did the Warhammer video.
The Warhammer one was done very well.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only way you can pull off a decent, April's Fool gag. It has to look real. It has to be treated, seriously.
It's got to have production value to it. Can't look cheap.
Right. It's not enough just to be cheeky and fun.
There was a lot of other ones.
Or it has to completely ruin people's day, like the Google mic drop.
Oh yeah,
that's not what a joke's supposed to do. That's supposed to ruin people's day over a joke.
So just really quick, if people want to look into these,
Schadenfreude.
If anybody wants to look up some of the jokes out there, Blizzard did one for a StarCraft themed browser game. Sega unveiled a game called Big the Cat themed adventure game called Big's Big Fishing Adventure 3. Nintendo revealed a Splatoon arcade cabinet. No Man's Sky developer put out a tweet that they're finishing up coding microtransactions, which is just not funny, actually.
I thought it was pretty funny. It was a very simple joke.
World of Warships added bathtub missions. Team 17, which is the Worms guy, added Worms Dating Revolution. They showed that off. Play Asia releases a Safe Games initiative. I didn't see this one. Oh, this is about Dead or Alive Extreme 3?
Yeah, it's
okay. League of Legends, I heard about this one. League of Legends changes to League of Draven, featuring Draven heads on all characters and special April Fool's skins. And Neko part of the game about having sex with cat girls is going to release in VR.
I think that already exists.
It probably does.
It does not.
Maybe not under that title.
No, probably not.
There's a lot of wacky shit out there for VR. I mean,
oh man,
I can't wait.
Wild West. It's what it is. It's gonna be crazy. All right, so let's move into announcements and debuts. So the first one on this list, because I hold the Rocket League torch in this podcast, when Papa's not around, is Rocket League basketball is coming soon. This is not an April Fool's joke. It is actually going to be a thing. So you will be able to play basketball in Rocket League in some funky way. I would recommend going to YouTube and looking at the video.
There's a hoop, and it involves putting a ball in it.
That is correct.
With a rocket car.
Yes. To put it succinctly, I love how you delivered that. Nintendo's Miitomo app is now available in the West. This is the most juvenile,
are still trying to figure out what to do.
Annoying fucking thing on the planet. It's just Nintendo. You get to make your little avatar, take a picture of yourself, and it tries to like make you, and you can buy it. You can look at little outfits and all that other bullshit. It's basically like your Xbox Live avatar. That's what it reminded me of, and the music the whole time in the background is fucking annoying.
Well, remember when we talked about how Square Enix could just take a disc and fuck you on it and people buy shit?
Yep.
Well, that's the same thing Nintendo's doing right now.
That is correct. And a few podcasts back, we talked about how Sony Computer Entertainment and Sony Network Entertainment were going to be coming together under a single building to have everyone all together. That is now official. That happened on, I believe, March 1st, actually. Or April 1st. Yeah, it happened on Friday. And that is now collectively called Sony Interactive Entertainment. It is now a thing. That is going. And the last bit of announcement from me, this one is might have been closer to my heart several years ago, but Final Fantasy XI support is no longer available on PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360. Finally, after all these years, Square Enix is saying you now have to play the game on PC if you wish to continue your adventure, which is the appropriate way to go based on the fact that those consoles are last generation. In the PlayStation's case, it's 2 generations ago, and the hard drive space and support on that stuff is severely waning. So yeah, there you go. We have more though.
Yes, there is more.
Go for it.
Well, we got Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which is a walking simulator, as Amos would call it. It's a adventure game developed by the Chinese Room and former Sony Computer Entertainment, now Sony Interactive Entertainment. Anyway, it's coming to the PC. AMD let slip in a driver update. They've added support to the latest AMD drivers for Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, so that's coming up.
Game didn't really review that well.
Yeah, it's all right. A Division 1.1 update launches April 12th, adding the new incursion mode. So if you're still playing the Division and you're not utterly bored doing the loot grind, I guess you can look forward to that one. What else we got? Jay and Silent Bob, Chronic Blunt Punch, a multiplayer beat-em-up being developed by Interbang Entertainment, was successfully funded by its campaign on Fig. So if you've been waiting for a Jay and Silent Bob beat-em-up, you should finally get your dream.
Oh, you have no idea how long I've been waiting.
Right. What else do we have? Star Ocean, Integrity and Faithlessness got a release date. Will be coming out June 28th in North America. And then I think May's got some here too.
He always does.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on in the wonderful world of Japan, because that's how we'll preface your segment.
But there's only 2 Japanese games on there.
For now.
I guess 3 Japanese games. Whatever. Total Dark is an isometric RPG from the Chinese Room. The guys who made I can't remember now. Did they do Everybody's Gone to Rapture?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're actually making a game now.
Making a real game? Is that what you're alluding to here?
Yes. They decided to go from slightly interactive movies to games.
Oh, congratulations. That's a big step for them.
Guilty Gear XR Revelator has a demo out on PS4 and it is free to play, of course.
Cool. And
you can play 20 characters in 3 modes, so that's pretty massive for a demo.
That's a beefy fucking demo. Give you 20 characters? You'd be lucky if Street Fighter gave you 5.
I believe the only characters you can't play are that new one, the I'll just call it Cum.
Oh,
that's the first name of the character. And you can't play as Raven in Dizzy. But you can play Johnny and Dan.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
Baldur's Gate expansion is launching called Siege of Dragonsphere. I don't understand this one.
Yes, this is actually an expansion to the original Baldur's Gate. It's the enhanced edition, which is available on Steam and other places. But yeah, it is an expansion to the original game, supposed to bridge the story between Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2.
This is like when the Age of Empire people remembered that they were working on an expansion. They all fell asleep, and then they talked to the Baldur's Gate people who were like, "Oh, we were doing that too, and we're awake now." What year is it?
Yeah, they Fan winkled that shit.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's like.
There's a Warcraft 2 expansion coming.
Wouldn't surprise me at this point.
Seriously. Well, we're getting a System Shock 3, so look forward to that.
Seraph, a side-scrolling shooter / RPG by Ironcast developers, is releasing for PC and PS4. It has auto-aiming as a feature.
Oh.
You run around and just shoot things while you try to dodge everything.
It looks like Shadow Complex, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Like side-scrolly kind of action shooter bullet kind of game. 100% auto-aimed combat is indeed a feature on their trailer. It's terrible. All you got to do is point and shoot. That's what they're going for here.
Hey, at least
Apparently, you don't even have to point.
Well, you have to press the button to shoot, I think.
Hey, it's still a bit harder than Star Fox Invincibility mode.
Papa would get mad at you.
Hey, I am all for the Invincibility mode so far.
Okay.
Code of Princess, JRPG beat 'em up, was originally on the 3DS. It had frame rate issues, but it probably won't on the PC because it's coming there. It looks like it actually might be a fun game to play. You're kind of in the Dungeons of Mist area or the old Golden Axe games. Might be a fun game to play Friday night game night.
So would Castle Crashers.
Yes, Castle Crashers too.
Yes, that's
another good example. Hatsune Miku Project Diva X got a Western release trailer.
It sure did. Coming in the fall.
These are rhythm games. They play. You get the buttons when you pop up on the screen while watching an idol.
That is a singer.
An idol / singer, whatever you want to call it. Dance on the screen. That's completely CG, and the sound is completely processed through the computer as well. Anyway, Atlas Reactor from Tryon is a turn-based PvP game. These guys have made Rift and
yeah, this is first-party development for them, right?
Yeah, they're a first-party developer.
This is an interesting game for them.
Yeah, it looks kind of interesting, but it's actually you can play the open alpha now, and it looks like XCOM but multiplayer.
Yeah. Yeah, I would never have guessed Tryon would do something like this.
I mean, they always do weird shit like that. They did the Minecraft type MMO game that I think all their games
Trove,
failures at this point. But
yeah, Trove did not do
well. Organic Panic, a game about fruits and vegetables versus meat and cheeses. I don't really have much to say about the gameplay on this one.
You know,
you could probably skip it.
It's probably trying to play off the whole idea of Plants vs. Zombies. But it doesn't play like that.
It looks like it plays kind of like Worms in real time.
Yeah, Worms in real time. It has that same sort of art style too. Cool name.
Lithium Inmate 39 is a hard game for PS4. Might release on other systems too, I'm sure. I'm not going to dig deeper on that one.
It looks like a horror game. That's all you can say.
And Farlands releases a trailer. It's a free game bundle with the Oculus Rift. Kind of hard to describe this one as well. I guess you're going for, horror vibe.
Yeah, you walk up to creepy creatures and you interact with them in some way. Interesting. All right. So, last but not least is our upcoming game segment. We're going to go through the games from April 4th to April 17th. But, just as a disclaimer, because I know, AI, you were talking to me about this before the podcast, there are a lot of VR games that are just being shoved out onto the store, Steam, all that stuff. It is going to be virtually impossible to list or mention all of those games in any given time period because there's going to be so many coming out this year. So we'll just kind of cover the big ones, I guess, when we hear about them, right?
Yep. And I will count it as a separate platform. So
yes. I think that's fair.
Anyway, first up we have this is actually releasing tomorrow, so please be excited.
Oh God.
Honeycam Studio from the Honey Pop developers, and it's a simulation game where you manage camcords. It's coming out on PC.
Nice. That's a great idea.
Art style kind of reminds me of like Leisure Suit Larry.
Same art style as Honey Pop.
Yeah, it's the same art style.
Mm.
These guys make the
So-
same game basically.
I am going to assume that this one has a nude version outside of Steam, or you could actually apply a patch
Don't
to
even
it.
assume. Just know that there is.
It's
'Cause
pretty
it's
much a
out
matter
there.
of public record.
It's there. It's
So yeah, if you ever wanted to know how the whole cam whoring business is operated, you could
down
probably-
and dirty cam whore business.
Anyway, I think the big news
Which prostitution?
this time around is HTC Vive is going to release. The first wave is going to ship out April 5th. So,
No, they've already shipped. They're arriving in people's hands like tomorrow and on the 5th.
So are you?
some
is
press
yours
got 'em
coming
already.
soon? Did you get a notice yet on this?
No, mine has not billed, nor has it shipped yet. I ordered like 3 hours after pre-orders opened up. So
This is a
I
busy
don't-
man.
I was out in the field that day, and I was on my cell phone, so it wasn't easy for me to make a pre-order.
Well, we do have a bunch of games releasing simultaneously with it.
So some of these are bundled, right?
I know Job
Simulator,
is one.
Fantastic
Job Simulator,
Contraption.
Fantastic Contraption.
Yeah.
So we'll just go ahead and just Job Simulator is a Goofy Simulator and like Goat Simulator. It doesn't really seem to have a lot of content.
It
There's
doesn't.
4 different jobs you can take
Most
on.
simulator games don't have a lot of content though.
And you'll probably be bored with it in 10 minutes. But it's free with the Vive, so worth mentioning here.
They're gonna
And
install it to see
April
what it's
5th.
about.
Good way to get situated with VR.
All these are April 5th though.
Yeah, these are all going to be April 5th. Fantastic Contraption is a sandbox engineering game. You build a machine, you try to get the machine over to a certain section while scaling obstacles. This is actually a Flash game originally. Obviously, it works really well in VR. Probably a better, probably a bit more time you're going to spend on this one than the Job Simulator. And that's also free with the Vive. So
Yeah, this one looks interesting. When you guys explained it to me last time, I went and looked it up, and I was like, "Wow, it's got some legs to it. This could go somewhere."
Yeah, it seems to take very good advantage of the two, touch controllers basically. It's definitely a game where you're walking around, you're using the controllers to pick stuff up and physically, position things and assemble them.
I
It'll
like
keep
it.
people entertained.
Until the real games come out.
What?
Well, so some games I thought looked interesting here. Capria, Magic of the Elements. It's a defense action game where you're a wizard and you have to kind of herd goats around while defending them. Definitely an interesting concept. Looks pretty cool.
You said
Pretty
herd
big, you
goats,
could pick
right?
up yeah.
Okay, I was just making sure I heard you properly.
It's coming out April 5th. We already mentioned that they're all coming out April 5th, but it's in early access. So I'm told I have to put the early access disclaimer on there.
Oh, I thought it was EA. I was like, EA's making a VR game, but then I figured out it was.
They are
Alex.
making a VR game, actually.
I'm
They're
a little
making,
surprised.
Making Battlefront for VR.
Battlefront?
Yep.
They're gonna like port it over to VR.
PlayStation VR. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It might be.
I don't know if it's going to be ported, but
It might be a separate game
I
entirely.
see. Okay.
But it's called Battlefront VR. They haven't discussed details of it yet.
It's EA. Why would they?
Yeah. We got this. Now, this looks like it's a really good VR game. The Gallery Episode 1, Call of the Starseeds, is episodic, obviously. It's an adventure game. I think there's some shooting elements to it, too. It's coming out Vive. I think Nadia's could talk more about this one, right?
yeah, it's definitely like an adventure game, more in line with like Myst and Rift and whatnot, and those other games like basically adventure and puzzle solving, and a very visceral and visually detailed world. Looks fun.
Looks fun. It looks good too. I mean, in terms of art style and really good use of darkness and it's probably going to have a pretty good presence, and I like that it's going to be episodic. So this is the first episodic game for the Vive that we've heard of.
I believe
for
so.
VR in general, right? Cool,
You know,
cool.
there's so many indie titles in the works that are just ready, to come out as soon as the hardware is in people's hands. So it's going to be showing up like crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We also have Cloudlands releasing. It's VR mini golf. I think we really need to say much more about that.
There's going to be a lot of VR sports games for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, this will work well in VR. And it looks pretty good, so.
But you use the touch controllers to actually like putt or hit the ball.
Yep.
That's cool. I like that.
Holodance is a dance and broom game. It doesn't really look that great to me, but I've heard a lot about it, so I'm just going to put it up there. But you actually have to, the things come at the, like, it's kind of like Hatsune Miku games. You actually use the controllers to hit the things as they come at you at the right time. I'm sure you could dance around while you're doing it.
You can do whatever you want.
Hopefully alone and in your underwear.
In your dark VR room. The
While
windows
streaming
covered.
to Twitch. So we could see you dancing in your underwear.
Absolutely. Turn your webcam on and stream to Twitch, please, if you're going to do that.
You know, I mean, Facebook already knows already.
They already know you're dancing.
Eve Gunjack is going to release. It's a rail shooter. I'm not too impressed with this one. Valkyrie looks just way better than this.
Well, it's a rail shooter.
Yeah.
But again, that's another really early concept of VR that they showed in the arcades with rail shooters. You know, you always took a first-person perspective. You picked up a real gun. Like the translation makes sense. Although rail shooters themselves is kind of like a shitty genre of games, in my opinion.
Yeah, this one you're just basically kind of chilling in a turret and just shooting down enemy fighters.
Sounds boring.
Looks pretty boring.
So we got some non-VR games releasing as well, April 5th. These are all going to be April 5th games. Enter the Gungeon is a roguelike shooter.
Yes, you heard that right. That is Enter the Gungeon.
Yeah, no, this game's been around for a while in early access, and it's pretty popular.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun, actually. And it's coming out PS4 or PC.
I mean, just think of
Definitely.
like Isaac with guns, and the guns get all kinds of upgrade crazy, and there's monsters all over the screen. It looks like a shitload of fun.
Yeah, like Crimson Lion, kind of, but more roguelike and more dungeon exploring. Dirt Rally is releasing for the PS4 and Xbox One. It's a racing simulator. It's also on the PC. It was released like in December 2015. Got really good reviews.
It's a
So
very
that's up on
popular
there.
franchise amongst those people who drive blue Subaru WRXs.
Yeah.
Star Wars Battlefront is releasing some DLC called Outer Rim for PS4, PC, and Xbox One, April 5th as well.
People still play that game?
Very few.
I guess so. Quantum Break is releasing another big title. I just put action time magic game.
Oh, you're right.
It's coming out for Xbox One, PC, April 5th. I should put watching live TV as well.
Yeah, you should. This game did not review very well at legitimate game review sites, and did very well on not so legitimate game review sites for whatever reason. So why don't we take a break and talk about Quantum Break for a second, because this is one that just got into a lot of reviewers' hands, and essentially you're playing a third-person action game with some platforming ability and special time magic powers, like AI is telling you. But every now and then, approximately maybe 20-30 minutes of gameplay-ish per chapter, there's like a FMV TV show that gets inserted in between the chapters, and the outcome of that particular episode you're watching is based on the decisions, the very few decisions that you've made in the chapter you just played. And so I think the whole game is maybe like 6 hours, 4 hours, something like that. I don't remember exactly. It's relatively short, but with the FMVs added onto it, it seems like a longer experience. And the FMV, you have to sit there and watch it. It's like literally part of the action game, and you can't like. I don't think you can skip it or anything like that.
Well, I think this is a Metal Gear game.
It does kind of change based on your actions in the story and everything, but it's only minor changes apparently.
Very minor, yeah. And they've got some high-profile actors in there. That do the voice in the game and then also in the TV show. So they kind of try to come up with this game TV show hybrid thing that, from the people that I trust to write reviews, say it does not work for this game at all. Like it totally breaks the immersion of the game. It doesn't make any sense. The platforming sucks. The shooting is terrible, which is par for the course with Remedy. Shooting has never been good.
Yeah, let's just put it this way. Giant Bomb, GameSpot, Shack News rated low, and Polygon and Kotaku rated high. So it should give you who do you trust?
Do what you will with that information. Oh yeah, Quantum Break. It's only available for PC on the Windows Store. We have to differentiate that.
Do we?
Yes, we do, because you can't buy it on Steam. Can't disable VSync, god damn it. That's an important distinction. PC gaming. Right, Naughtius? Come on.
I agree.
So yeah, April 5th. Anyway, let's move on to the next one.
Wharton and Melody of the Undergrowth is an adventure game that's going to Zelda-esque. It's coming out PC April 8th. I put on there because it was kind of interesting.
Now you're going to make me look this up.
Yeah, they definitely had the Zelda style down.
Like, wait, is it side scrolly or like open adventure, open world kind of?
Like the open world Zelda games.
Oh, okay, all right, like the N64 ones.
Or the other games that are kind of like it, with Kazooie.
Okay, doesn't have a price yet on Steam, but yeah.
Another kind of interesting game. It's kind of like Bookworm, actually. Letter Quest, Grimm's Journey, remastered. You spell out words, and you have Bookworm Adventures, I should say. I believe it was Bookworm Adventures. Or Bookworm Quest or something like that. One of the Bookworm spin-offs from PopCap. But this is not from PopCap, but it's releasing for the Xbox One exclusive, I think.
This is an older game, actually. It's been on Steam for a while. The remastered version came out last year. Very positive reviews on Steam. Yeah, it's definitely an older game. I don't know when the original came out, but it is on Steam as well. You can buy the original and the remastered on Steam for $7.99 together, by the way.
I don't know why you do that, but it's coming out April 8th. Ratchet and Clank this is one of Naughtius's picks.
Oh,
it's an
yeah.
action platformer.
Yep.
Coming out PS4 April 12th. This game is going to be really good.
Yeah, turned a lot of heads when they started showing it off. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and they've maintained a lot of what made the original so much fun to play, and they've added on to the systems. It just looks like a tremendously fun game.
Oh yeah, as long as it's like the original, people will eat this shit up, and it will score 95, 90, whatever.
And I believe the games have done nothing but improve with each iteration of the series, so that's a good sign. Hopefully this one's improved even that, so. But it's one of probably the best looking game on PS4 so far, I'd say.
Yeah, it looks phenomenal, and every play demonstration we've seen of it, it looks like it's fun and just a hilarious, good time.
This is probably a game that if it had come out at launch might have been a system seller. What do you think?
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't have hurt.
Better than Knack?
Better than Knack, that's true.
Dark Souls 3 is coming out, as we mentioned. This is the official release
Right.
for the system. It's an action RPG, obviously. If you don't know the Soul series, I don't know what's wrong with it.
Action RPG puzzle.
No, puzzles.
Okay, fine. There's no puzzles. When you pick up that random key, you got to figure out what door it goes to, right?
Every encounter you fight, it's a puzzle in and of itself. How do you beat this boss?
You're probably right. That's true.
It's coming out PS4, PC, Xbox One, April 12th. It's the official release date, but obviously you can get early from different means.
Horror action RPG.
And if you get it from other means and you're really lucky, you might get your account banned.
I wouldn't say that's lucky. Anyway, Stories, The Path of Destinies is, we've talked about this a bit. I believe it had a different title, and then they changed the title of the stories. But it's an RPG, isometric hack and slash, looks kind of like Diablo.
Yeah, it's not dark like Diablo.
No, not art style, but I mean the gameplay looks like Diablo-ish. It's coming out for PS4, PC, April 12th. I think this one's worth picking up, maybe. But I mean, obviously, there's Ratchet & Clank and Dark Souls, so it's kind of hard choice.
Yeah, this one doesn't look like it'll be more than $20, if that. Doesn't have.
I believe it's already
Steam yet.
No, it's already for sale. I believe. I think it's like $14.
14?
Yeah, if you buy it pre-order early on PS4, but 15, I guess, normally.
Yeah, that looks like about the price point for this game.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have the store page up in front of me, but you could actually pre-order it now on PS4. They're doing the deal with the 5 games on, I believe Enter the Gungeon was on there as well. So 5 games are releasing each week, 5 indie games, and you could pre-order that and get like 10% off.
Gotcha.
Bravely Second, Endlayer, another big release.
I hear that series is kind of popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JRPG is coming out on 3DS, April 15th. There's your one Nintendo game.
Your Final Fantasy nostalgia with a different name. All right. That's the whole list of upcoming games that we thought were worth mentioning for the time being. All right, so those who are regular listeners of the podcast know that we did this thing called the Fantasy Video Game Draft on our last show of the year, where we went through 7 rounds, and we each were randomly seeded, and we picked a game in each round that we thought would review very well, and at the end of the year, we tally up those scores, and whoever scored the highest is apparently the person who can predict what the Game Press feels about video games. So at the end of the podcast, we always do this little update. So some of the release date changes for games that were chosen in the podcast, for the draft rather. Batman Telltale is releasing in the summer, which is actually just an announcement of the release date. I don't think we had one previously, correct?
No, we just had the announcement.
Yeah, just sometime in
on the Game Awards. Right. On the Game Awards for the game. And that was it. I haven't heard anything else about it.
Okay.
Until now.
Yeah, you're right. It was just 2016. And Star Ocean 5 was recently announced to be June 28th. Upcoming games for the video game draft that will be scored soon. We have Dark Souls 3, which, as we mentioned, is coming out April 12th for basically everything. That was Naughty's. That was the very first pick of the entire draft. First round, first pick by Naughty's. So good luck.
Yeah, it's a sure win.
It is. You're absolutely
it's
right.
Like, even if it doesn't, get into the 90s, it's going to be high 80s.
It'll be like an 88. I tell you. And Ratchet & Clank, action platformer, also mentioned April 12th. That was Naughty's third round pick. It was the 4th pick of that round.
I'm feeling pretty good about this one, but I think it's going to be a shorter game. I was noticing the price on it is only like $39.99, so something's going on there. But I guess we'll see, though.
It'll still score well, though.
I hope so.
I mean, if the premise of this whole thing is Metacritic scores, then
I don't think, the length of the game has such an effect on the Metacritic score.
All right, here are some score updates for games that came out since the last podcast or have confirmed their score since they've been out a little bit now. Adrift, which was that VR game. That was Gray's pick, which is me. It was my seventh round pick, fifth pick. It was the very last pick in the entire draft. The Metacritic score is a 67. That's pretty fucking terrible.
Yeah, that could have worked out better for you.
I would feel pretty disappointed about
Yeah.
that.
Ashes of Singularity was Cipher's second round pick. It was the fifth pick of the round. Scored an 81, which is a very good score.
It has like 3 reviews right now. We're expecting that to vary.
Okay.
I'm actually surprised it doesn't have more reviews. I guess it's a PC game. So.
It's a very low-profile PC game, and it's a real-time strategy. So those take a long time to review properly.
And difficult too. I mean, they're always changing.
But as popular as Ashes of the Singularity has been as a technical platform for testing DirectX 12, I'm surprised they're taking so long reviewing it.
Hey, take your time with the reviews. Don't rush, guys. Just review it fairly. All right, and Naughtius's first pick in the 5th round was Firewatch. We talked about that one last time. It's now firmly at an 80 since it released on February 9th. AI picked 4th round, 4th pick, Street Fighter V, which has been out for a little over a month now as well. That made it correct at 77.
Disappointed.
I hear they're gonna like finish it at some point too.
Yeah, maybe they'll add stuff.
Man, if they finish it, could you imagine what the score would be?
The Witness.
Have an actual game?
Yeah, with the single player stuff in arcade mode, yeah. Be good. It's coming though, it's coming. The Witness scored an 88. That was AI's 4th pick in the 5th round. That released on January 26th, so that's pretty firm. That's a good score. Unravel, which was my pick in the 6th round, it was the 2nd pick, was a 79. So that one's pretty firm. I'm happy with the 79. And last but not
how late a pick it was,
yeah. Yeah, it was late, but I had that one earmarked. I was going to take that one. XCOM 2 is also firmly at an 88 now. That was Cipher's round in the 4th pick. It was the 2nd pick of that round.
Dropped a couple points.
Yeah, wasn't that like a 91 or a 90?
90 something, I think, last after 2 weeks.
Oh, that's not a bad place to settle, though. 88 is a very strong score. Very strong score. Yeah, and then there was some stuff about Doom 4 multiplayer impressions that you guys can read about on PC Gamer.
I believe the beta is out for it or something.
It is, yeah, that's right. It is out. And that game is releasing before E3, so it's not really going to get a lot of big press boosts coming up. So if you're interested in Doom 4, go check it out on your own, because there's plenty of stuff out there about it.
I think it's also worth mentioning Star Ocean 5 is released in Japan, so you can get some impressions of that game.
Right.
It sounds like it's not going to score as high as I hoped it would.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but it's going to sell well. I mean, people like Star Ocean. I know Brack's going to pick it up. He was very interested in it.
I think it's good for an 80, though.
Yeah.
80 something.
Those RPGs, they're long and they take a while to review, too. Okie dokie. So that wraps up the podcast for this week. We will see you guys in 2 weeks, as always, with our bi-weekly podcast. I'm sorry. On Sunday, April 17th, for the 62nd episode of the IGC podcast. In the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, you can follow us on Twitter at impact_gamingcm. Follow us on YouTube at Impact Gaming Videos. Search for us on iTunes. Subscribe to our podcast. Leave us a review, something. And if you're thinking about playing some video games with us, that's cool too. We play Final Fantasy XIV. We play Ark. We've got a D&D group, which is now officially 4 people strong. We're looking for a 5th, possibly a 6th member. We are playing Ark, and we are now running our own Ark server as well within the community. We're also playing The Division. We've got a pretty strong division for The Division. You see what I did there? And that's going pretty well. Right now, being headed up by Kanya. They've got a couple officers in place. Things are going well. But that's not it. We play a lot of stuff sporadically. So just come on by and, talk to us. Join the community. Drop us an application by hitting the apply button. That would be awesome. I will get it, and I will read it, and I will respond to you, and it will be cool. And that's about it. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you all you guys for coming to the podcast, as usual. I would really appreciate it. I think it was a pretty good discussion today. And to reiterate, we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Sunday, April 17th. Mark it on your calendar, guys. In the meantime, game on.